Good evening, and thank you. First of all, thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk tonight. I will say only one sentence about what's happened today in the fair. Whoever, the person that cannot take his or her arguments to a debate, probably the argument's worth nothing. That's it. If you're not strong enough and sure that you can take your arguments and challenge it in front of someone else, you're probably just a propaganda machine. That's the only thing I have to say. I'm Itai Reuveni. I work in an organization called NGO Monitor. I will explain about it in a bit. And today's lecture is not about Israeli advocacy. It's not about convincing you to support or not support. It's about show you a phenomenon, something that we all, as Israelis and as the Jewish communities in diaspora and Israel supporters, we all see, we all sometimes feel. And then in the questions and answers and the Q&A section, we can probably debate some more. Originally, I was born in Ashkelon. It's near Gaza. My house already was hit by missiles already 2.5 times from Gaza. So we got used to it. And I'm living today in Bet Shemesh. It's between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and our office is in Jerusalem. And again, I'm really excited to be here because for me, it's first time in Sweden. It's a great opportunity. But we all know that Israel as a state face a problem. A problem that, by the way, it's not a new problem. It's a problem that exists since before the establishment of Israel. The idea of Jewish self-determination is being challenged since the late 19th century. It's always coming with different shapes, with different excuses, from different ideological point of views. It can come from the extreme right. It can come from religious ideas that oppose a Jewish state in any border, Christian ideas, Islamic ideas, and also, we have also two main streams in Judaism that oppose to the existence of the state of Israel. And it can come also from the far left, or how we see it today, the ones that frame the discussion against Israel as a human rights problem. And I think most of us knows that this reality is something that we experience all the time. Usually, we experience it in the framework of human rights or international law. And most of the times, it comes in a form or in the context of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Okay, sometimes it also comes in other contexts, like the existence of Israel, the policies of Israel inside Israel, regardless the Palestinians, but that's the main core. Today in the fair, there was a Turkish guy that came to me, and I did a little test. This is how I know how to measure how anti-Israel, how brainwashed he was. 17 years old, high school guy, and he wanted to ask me a question. So the first thing I did, I came to shake his hand. The first thing he did is took one step and did like this. I'm sorry, I don't want to cause any problems. That's what he said to me. And that's my measurement of the problem. We spoke, he asked me why you kill babies, why you slaughtering babies, and I explained to him that he's a smart guy with a great English, he may want to read more and not just read things that he sees in TikTok. But the problem exists. The problem exists, and when it exists the most, when something is escalating between Israel and the Palestinians. We had a few rounds in Gaza. We had what we had in May 2021, which was not only the Palestinians in the territories. It's escalated inside the mixed cities. It's escalated between Jews and Arabs on the streets. I can tell you that it was that close from losing control. And people say that in the future, in the next round, it will be. And what I want to discuss today, I want to ask the question of why and the how and the who. Who are the people that are engaging in those activities? Who are the people, who are the organizations that pushing those things? Who affecting the UN to be so biased against the state of Israel? Who is putting the fuel? Who is behind all that? And one of the major questions I'm going to discuss, where is the money come from? Ladies and gentlemen, in order to do a protest, in order to write a 150 pages report, or to do a PR campaign globally, you need money. You cannot do anything without money, period. Whoever disagree with me, this is how the world works today. And I did this lecture in the last 11 years. I'm in NGO Monitor for 11 years. I'm the director of communications. I was the director of research, so I came from both sides. But before we explain about NGO Monitor, every lecture I did in more than 20 countries. That's the first time in Sweden, by the way. So I really love to open with this slide, because this slide reflects the problem. What you can see here are cartoons published by a Palestinian organization called Badil, recognized as a human rights organization by the UN and by most of the European community, receives money from European countries, including Sweden, and that's the interpretation of human rights. You can see the anti-Semitic features, you can see the rip-off Balfour Declaration, which is the essence of a Jewish home. You can see one state, and you can see, the octopus it's a German thing. In Der Strimmer, there's a famous octopus that hugging the earth, and you can see Star of David. The same thing, just with a little upgrade of Palestinian villages that, according to the Palestinians, were destroyed in 1948. And this is the answer to the three questions I asked before. The who, unfortunately, are human rights NGOs, non-governmental organizations, that using the words human rights and international law and spearheading this campaign against Israel. The how, I will explain in a bit. And the why, that's a conclusion that you will have to reach by yourself. NGO Monitor, this is the exact questions that we ask. We are a research institute, a non-profit, private. We are not funded by the Israeli government or any government. We are fundraising our money by ourselves. We have 17 people. Half of them are researchers, half of them dealing more with the outreach and communications. And we're dealing with one niche, and one niche only. The question of the involvement of human rights NGOs in things like anti-Semitism, terrorism, BDS, lawfare, the use of international law in order to differentiate Israel, make double standards, and attack it politically. And today, we are the leading research institute that deals and criticizes those NGOs and their funders. We have a website. I will put the website in the end. It's a great website, a lot of material. I think you saw a report, and I will also present it. But I do want to spend 7 minutes on how come, where in history the change from attacking Israel as a state, let's say the Arab states who boycott Israel in the 60s and the 70s, the communist bloc, where the change happened that from a political war between states, it became a situation, a war between civil society and the state of Israel and everything that the state of Israel is representing. When it happened, like what's happened that suddenly the things, good things like human rights organizations that swear to protect the good found themselves in the side that always attacking, always demonizing, and taking double standards, and forget that sometimes Jews and Israelis are also human beings? How it happened? And the answer for that is, someone knows where this thing was handed? What year, which place? Half of the people in 1 second said, oh, that's World War II. Other half gets that they're speaking about the state of Israel here. But the interesting part is that this flyer, among others, was handed to the participants of the UN conference against racism. Durban 2001, September 2001. The UN doing one of its biggest events ever on human rights. The participants, 1,500 NGOs. In the first day, it became one of the most anti-Semitic events that even Jews who criticize Israel and was there said that that's nuts, that's crazy. Jews were attacked. People who wanted to speak said you have to announce that you are against the state of Israel. Violent demonstrations, and this thing. And why Durban? What's happened there? They understood, and when I say they, it's the Palestinian elites and political activists that belongs to the far left, usually working in international humanitarian aid organizations. They understood that in parallel to the physical war against Israel, tanks, terror attacks, wiping Israel out of the map, we need to engage in a war of ideas. We need to delegitimize the moral idea beyond the existence of Israel. And how we do that? We're going to the world of soft power. In political science, there are hard power and soft power. Soft power, it's nothing. It's not a war. I'm not forcing you to do something. I'm convincing you based on ideas, based on values. And they understood that. They understood that very fast. So what the NGOs did in the end of Durban conference, 3 days, by the way, before 9/11. 3 days before 9/11, the main thing on the international news is, you know what? The Second Intifada. The Second Intifada is the main war that being broadcasted. I was a combat soldier during the Second Intifada. The main thing that the world is seeing is the Israelis and Palestinians fighting each other. There is no Rwanda anymore. There is no Yugoslavia anymore. The communist bloc is not exist anymore. This is everyone focused on that. Of course, until 9/11. And the NGOs, they published a manifest. And in the manifest, you can see that's the end of it. Half of it dealt with Africa, and the other half dealt with Israel, the source of all the world's problem. And you can see here, it's not about peace. It's not about solution. It's not about two-state solution. It's not about giving Jews their place and Palestinians their place. It's about punishing the state of Israel. And the beauty that they never wrote how to do it. They just said, this is the goal. Total isolation of the state of Israel. The weapon are NGOs, civil society. Now do whatever you want. And if I'm going 21 years forward, we can see, those are the tactics. If we saw the strategy, now we see the tactics. I believe that you know what is BDS. I believe we all read about it or experienced it in some way. I just experienced it today. Okay? But it's not only that. It's lobbying, reports, lawfare, the misuse of international law, the effort to take Israel to the International Criminal Court without any legal ground, by the way, or international treaty ground. And we see that. We see that all the time. And you probably exposed to it via media or social media. We as a research institute dealing with the guts of things. And then I will ask a question, so how come all the media, all the student unions, all the workers' unions, even the churches, how come they just take whatever those NGOs doing and believe it's true? Like how this echo chamber of repeating the allegations of the NGOs against Israel, why? Now, most of the times that I ask this question, someone raises his hand and says, they're all anti-Semitic. That's not the right answer. Maybe some of them very critical towards Israel, but the explanation, or part of the explanation, is actually derived from, I can see it's a little hide. It's a new slideshow, so if you see mistakes, that's on me. From a psychological term called the halo effect. Halo like angel. For years, especially in Western countries, human rights NGOs perceived as angels. And this psychological effect happening to all of us. I will do a little experiment. If I'm in Israel and I'm saying to the average Israeli, I'm Itai, I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm still doing a reserve service in a combat unit, automatically I will be perceived as someone good. Automatically. No matter who I am, maybe I'm lying, maybe I'm not such a good person, but automatically they reflect on me a set of positive values. Same happening with the word human rights organization or activist in Europe and in the West in general. And for 60 years, no one even thought about criticize them. Whoever criticized or whoever tried to say, wait, stop, how do you know that? Or what is your specialty in human rights? And how do you know what's happened in a war while you're sitting in London or Stockholm? No one asks those questions. And when no one criticizing you, and you don't have accountability and responsibility for anything, you can do whatever you want. Now I have thousands of examples. Usually the system works according to our research. An NGO saying something, the media repeat it very fast, and then the diplomatic world is starting to react, and then it's just a cycle that a news upon news upon news that making a huge story, usually from nothing or things that we cannot validate. I want to give you one example from I have thousands of examples, but I do like this one. In 2012, Israel and the Hamas again in a round of violence. Israel attacked from the air. One of the buildings in Gaza is being destroyed, and a Palestinian newborn, was killed. Those are the facts. Israel attacked the neighborhood. One of the buildings was collapsed. A newborn was killed. In the same day, a Palestinian organization, also funded by Europe, they decided that Israel attacked the building. This is what they decided. A day after, the biggest human rights NGO in the world, Human Rights Watch, repeated the allegations, and I'm quoting, citing news reports and witnesses who spoke with Human Rights Watch. You know where Human Rights Watch researchers are sitting? In Washington, D.C. 2 minutes after, and we witnessed it live, all the news in the world showed a headline, Israel killed a baby with an airplane. And like I showed you a slide before, from there, the diplomatic world started to condemn, and the UN decided they have to investigate this war crime. So they took the baby's body and did a post-mortem autopsy. And 5 months after, they found that Israel didn't attack the neighborhood at all. and the Palestinian baby was killed from a Palestinian missiles that went short in the middle and fell. That's actually the same case when it's hit my house. It's a Palestinian missile that went to Tel Aviv and then went off and just fell. Do you know how many media outlets cover this?
No.
2.
Wow.
2. That's it. That's how the system works. And if again, there are thousands of things, but this is 2019. Amnesty, which they have no one in Gaza. They claim that Israel attacked a building. They're in London. They don't know what's going on. But, it's automatically Israel is to blame. 2 seconds after, a journalist tweeting about that and saying, Israel did not strike this building. A rocket misfired from Gaza. I was across the street when it happened. What do you think Amnesty did after the lie was exposed? What a normal person would do? What a person with accountability and apologize, maybe write something, a follow-up, saying, look, yes, we understand that that's a war, nothing is clear now. No, not only they didn't delete it, they said, we understand there are different opinions of what's happened, but still Israel is to blame. No one can do anything. And so this is one of the problems, the halo effect, or one of the explanations of why it's happened. And the other explanation is the money. There are a lot of money involved in the anti-Israeli industry. Some of it, almost 60%, unfortunately, coming from friendly Western governments under the framework of humanitarian assistance and human rights. Some of the governments knows that that's what the money is being used for. Some of the governments don't have a clue. Everything lost in bureaucracy. We are not doing only research. We're taking the research and trying to lobby European governments. This is why they don't like us so much, because we are putting a very clear mirror in front of their faces, including Sweden. And I can tell you that in 1 year, we counted more than 100 million euros going to between 80 to 100 NGOs, Israelis and Palestinians, that involved in the activities that I mentioned. I'm not talking about legitimate criticism on the state of Israel. I'm not talking about lobbying for 2-state solutions or 4-state solutions. I'm not talking about a political debate. I'm talking about NGOs that involved in boycotts, in the apartheid campaign, NGOs that sat right next to us in the book fair today, BDS, and there are so like war crimes and ICC. And this number, 100 million, I said thousand, so $100 million per year. Now people will say, wait, but it's for only 80 organizations. That's not include church aid organizations, in your case like Diakonia or the Church of Sweden. It did not include the international humanitarian aid organization, the big ones. That's, if I'm counting those numbers, those will be endless. And we have a problem. We want to understand why friendly governments is funding those things. How come it's not normal between countries? It's not normal that a friendly country will fund an organization that spreading anti-Semitic cartoons or acting against the existence of another country. Like imagine Norway would suddenly start to fund NGOs here in Sweden, calling restarting the Swedish political system and dividing into two, or all the Swedes are war criminals. That will not happen between countries. That I'm telling you as a fact. No country will allow it to do. The ambassador will, in the same moment, will go to an airplane and be expelled. And I do want to. So one of the problems is transparency. In some magical way, an amazing magic, when we ask the information from governments specifically about those NGOs, there is no transparency anymore. You can ask about any country, any conflict zone, Morocco, Sudan, Iraq, until recently Afghanistan, everything is there. When we come to ask about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, there is no transparency. You can see here, those are responses that we got from Freedom of Information request. Switzerland, Netherlands, and the UK. Fortunately, Sweden is actually one of the most transparent places when it comes to those things. And this is what makes so easy to understand how the money is flowing. And I do want to focus on Sweden. Now, I didn't tell it before. Usually, my lectures are pessimistic. They're annoying. You will see, I will show you now where is the taxpayers' money is going. Directly from SIDA to number of organizations. There are a lot, but I will focus only on 5. First of all, SIDA is a well-known funder of humanitarian causes everywhere in the world. Some of the things that they do are amazing, again, all over, until it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Then things becomes very, very political. And SIDA have different channels to transfer the money. Some of the channels are directly from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, SIDA, and then to the NGO, and some are less direct. Because Sweden is relatively transparent, it's also very easy to understand when SIDA telling an organization or another big platform, please take this money and give it to this organization and this organization. We have everything is open. Just to do the comparison, Germany is the least transparent. Even for Germans, they just don't know what's going on. So one of the cases, it's a very interesting case. SIDA, in order to fund number of organizations in Israel and the Palestinian Authority, chose to do it via a Palestinian framework called the NGO Development Center. And they giving the money, it's 8.1 million, and this center is in charge to take the Swedish money and blast it to 6, 8, depends on the year, 10 NGOs. Now, this is the point when you lose control on the money, even if you know where the money is going, and it's a problem. Now, before we go into the NGOs that receive the money, let's focus on the framework that the Swedish government chose to manage money for promoting human rights for the Palestinians. That, by the way, that's a great cause. It's perfectly fine to give money to promote human rights for the Palestinians. But or the peace process, or to bring Palestinians and Israelis close together. So let's see. First of all, the activities include BDS campaigns and anti-normalization. Everything that opposed to human rights and what SIDA itself declaring. Now, this body managing your money. And if I'm taking a few examples, we spoke about Badil in the beginning. That's one of SIDA's guarantees via the NDC. We can speak about Al-Haq. It's a well-known organization. The Europeans are very much respecting this organization. And we are, on the other hand, are criticizing. Only a few days ago, they called the PA not to recognize the state of Israel. In May, they had 50 pages manifest that submitted to the UN, explaining why the Zionist movement is a racist movement and why we just need to dismantle this entity that's called the State of Israel. They are the leaders of the complaint in the International Criminal Court. And recently there is a debate, which we are also one of the leaders of the debate, that they are connected to the terror organization, the Popular Front Liberation of Palestine, which this is one of the organizations that Israel designated as a terror organization. And if I'm going more the examples, some of the organizations that receiving SIDA's money, direct or indirectly, are very much involved in the apartheid campaign. And I will take 2 minutes about this campaign. First of all, it's not a new campaign. It's existed since the 50s. The Soviet Union pushed this term, they tried to push it very hard. The UN, 1975, Durban, which we spoke about, 2001, used the word apartheid. Not for nothing, it's happened in South Africa. And in the last 3 years, there is a raise in this campaign. And now the trick is they took the word apartheid and deleted its meaning and redefine it to be only on the Israeli case. It's exactly like I will tell you, someone stole from a shop, but I want to blame him as a murderer, so I will change the definition of murder. This is exactly what they did. They admitted it. They said, we changed the definition of apartheid in order to fit the Israeli-Palestinian case. And it's not about 1967. It's not about the territories. Every report in the last 3 years talking about 1948, talking about apartheid in all of Israel. Now, we did publish 3 reports on it. And I think it's very important that if you want to counter this allegation, we have also a resource page in our website. First, so we are big believers of facts. Let's talk about facts. So first of all, a report of what is apartheid? What is this word? How it's defined in the international law? Okay, if we want to talk about apartheid, let's talk. The other one is, okay, now that we defined what is apartheid, let's try to apply it to the allegations of the NGOs. Okay, I can tell you that the report is also very critical towards the government of Israel, but it's still based on facts and international law. And the other report, which was, I think, one of the greatest works I ever seen, is 150 pages, dismantling the Amnesty Apartheid report word by word. Someone, an outside researcher from NGO Monitor, came to us with an idea, and for 3 months he went every reference, every word, every quote in the Amnesty report that blaming Israel as an apartheid state, and just dismantled it. And that's an amazing work. I can tell you. You can find it in our website. And if I'm going more and more, again, $6 million from SIDA to an organization that, in its own website, putting anti-Semitic cartoons of Carlos Latouf, if you know, he's a very famous cartoonist, very, very anti-Israeli, some will say anti-Semitic. He won the 2nd place in Tehran contest of Holocaust denial. Okay, and I don't think that any of it promotes anything to do with human rights, peace, or something that can do better with the Palestinians. Another case, now it's not directly from this Palestinian framework. It's from SIDA via Diakonia and the Church of Sweden. It's a story that I can spend an hour to explain. it's an organization that send activists that train here. They send them as tourists to Israel. They put a vest. They monitor the Israeli army. They engage in some very problematic activities. They're coming back. They do BDS. They do apartheid. They do lobby in governments. It's not only from Sweden. It's coming from many, many countries. I can explain more later about it. But that's what the money is doing. Those are only a few examples. And I hope I'm okay with the time. I do want to leave a room for questions. To sum, the problem, like if going back to the questions I asked, the who, the why, and the how. The who, we already established that those NGOs who claim to promote human rights, spearheading those campaigns. The how, we explain. There is the halo effect, and the ability of those NGOs to be immune to any criticism or any professionalism, and the money. The only question that we didn't discuss is the why. And this is a question that I've been asked for the last decade in every lecture. So why? So why Europe funding those organizations? So why didn't do it? And this is two sentences that I will finish and we'll do some questions and answers. If you will ask different Israelis this question, some will say, like I said, oh, the Europeans are all anti-Semitic. And some will say, oh, the Europeans are in favor of human rights. It's very important for them. My thesis is that it's somewhere in the middle. There are different dimensions, different levels that affecting Europe to give money to those organizations. Yes, some of it, sometimes, is also ideological. We exposed a few years ago that one of the funding mechanisms of Germany, all the heads were like exchanging anti-Semitic jokes between them in a closed group in Facebook. Yes, there is ideology, but it's not only this. There are values that Europe is trying to promote. There are politics. It's the way of some of the countries in Europe to try to affect the situation, to try to promote what they believe will bring a solution. Sometimes it's the lack of the ability of a country to do its humanitarian work, so they subcontracting to other NGOs. Okay? SIDA is doing it everywhere. And sometimes it's geopolitical concerns. Europe wants to be part of the process. They want to be with Israel, and you can see that they are one of the greatest allies, but they also want to be and do good with the Palestinians. And if you take all this package and mix it with sometimes a very hard bureaucratic systems that European countries have, you get out of control money that's going everywhere without anyone doing a clear oversight. So I will, Shachar will tell me the time. We will open it to questions and answers. Thank you very much for listening and for the hospitality. I hope I didn't annoy you so much with those things. And again, thank you.